everybody is competing for capital on the market, for buyers, for customers, right? If you have two vendors that are very similar, you would then choose the one that is environmental friendly, more friendly, and that is more acting more social responsible, right?
Welcome to Innovation Talks. Join us weekly as we discuss with distinguished industry guests how to refine and improve corporate innovation and new product development as businesses aim for long-term success. Hosted by Paul Heller, Sopheon CTO.
If you are looking for additional information around new product development or corporate innovation, sign up for Sopheon's newsletter where we share news and industry best practices monthly. The fastest way to do this is to go to Sopheon.com. That's Sopheon.com, and click the sign up and stay informed box. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Glad you could join us again. I hope you're all having a nice summer. As we start to move into fall, I hope everybody's getting outside and getting a little bit of fresh air. We had a request. People can write to us. If you ever have a topic you want to have brought up, reach out to me. You could get me at talks@Sopheon.com, or you get me on LinkedIn. You can get me through the Sopheon website. But we had a request to talk about the circular economy, especially in chemical. And I had to think of, who in Sopheon would be a good person? Our old friend, H.C. Eppich, who's been on a couple of podcasts already, came to mind. He's really connected in chemical and thought he'd be a great person to talk about to us. So he's back. So welcome, H.C.
Hey, welcome, Paul. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, you're becoming a regular.
Yeah, right.
We don't tell anybody. How are you doing, H.C.?
Great. After 18 months of just being in the home office, I had my first appointment with real people outside of my home office yesterday again. So I'm still all jazzed up, and the face-to-face communication and all the interaction that goes with it. That's so much more fun and more exciting, and it was really a great event for me.
Fantastic. What was it? A business event? Something business related?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a business meeting. But as I'm coming from a region filled with lots of great companies like champions in the world, I was spending time with one member of the supervisory board of a company here in my hometown, actually, and they had invited me to their boardroom with a lot of senior people, and we had great discussions around the current state of the economy, where did they go, what are the countermeasures to get through the flawed economy, and also at what comes next. So what's on the horizon? Where do they need to prepare for the next wave, which is basically the increased environmental issue, and they're headed toward a circular economy. That's the topic, really. So that we had a nice fit of what we talked about yesterday and our conversation today.
Great timing. Great timing. Yeah, I did a podcast episode a little while ago, just checking in a few companies in their annual reports, what's important to them. And green and sustainability is certainly top of mind of many, many companies. And, I don't know how exactly we got from green and sustainability to the idea of the circular economy. I guess, it's bringing back around. But tell us a little bit about what that means. What do you mean by circular economy?
You described a path that, the world basically went through very well already. So it started out with these, let's say, environmental awareness in the late 70s, early 80s. That was when there were environmentalist groups were founded that may later become parties, like in Germany, the Greens, right? Die Grünen.
Yeah, green, exactly.
Yeah, I think they were founded actually 79. So that was the time when a lot of people became aware of, hey, fossil fuels are really not lasting forever. We're taking advantage of forests so much that they're disappearing, and that means a lot of the ecosystem is dying. A lot of species are going extinct. That was all. I was in school, of course, and I think I was in high school. Yeah, I was in high school at that time, and it was even taught in high school. If we continue to exploit the planet as we already did in the 70s, 80s, what that would mean to our resources and to our planet in the long run. So that was when the awareness was rising, and then sustainability became more and more important. And sustainability means that there is a general consent that if you produce something, you would comply to the standards, to the general standards, not only of manufacturing or something, but also to the environmental and standards, right, and social standards. So, and that general understanding has then evolved into, hey, sustainability is generally a great thing, but we need to really widen the scope. I may be going ahead here, but that's basically how that developed, because everybody was noticing the climate change is really based on the CO2 emissions that humanity brings into the air, right? So circular economy is focusing not only on sustainability, but mainly also on reproducing or reusing stuff and reducing waste to the max, right? Ideally, you would use the waste as the base stuff for the next product. And it encompasses also decrease your CO2 emissions, become carbon neutral. Just recently, in 2020, there was a new regulation and an action book commissioned by the European Union for all countries that are within the European Union that says we need to make that change towards a circular economy. Circularity needs to be our first goal, really, and that is now not a choice for any producing company. It's really mandatory. So I think that's in a short way how it became green, sustainable into a circular economy. I think circular economy encompasses everything and even more. Does that make sense?
It does. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned carbon neutrality,
Yeah.
and we see a tremendous amount of companies now very close to the point where they're saying they're energy neutral. They're able to operate without taking any energy whatsoever, electricity in particular. Factories becoming electrical neutral. So those are all related to circular economy.
Yeah, definitely. And there's many more initiatives, and we see that everywhere, right? So Sopheon has a customer, a chemical, a plastics producer that is already has a zero waste. Not
Hmm.
only a vision or something, no, they have accomplished that goal already. So in their factory where they produce their plastic products, they have zero waste. They reuse everything. So that's probably the gold standard where people want to go, but then you need to look actually one step further and encompass your supply chain and your customers,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it doesn't matter if you yourself don't have any waste, but your customer wastes like 50% of your stuff. So then we're back to square one.
Yeah. We have some other customers who are really focused on aluminum, aluminum
Yeah,
in
right.
automotive, aluminum
Yeah.
in packaging, aluminum cans, and the whole recycling of aluminum is a big deal. They strive to get a large percentage of the aluminum being recycled aluminum. Recycling is part of circular economy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Recycling is part of it, but also founding new ecosystems where one producer feeds off the other, right?
Hmm.
So that's all part of circular economy. And if someone wants just to Google it, you will find major initiatives from every large manufacturer, every large chemical supplier, any big company, except maybe for financial services, because they hardly have any waste. But
Right. And they're
yeah,
pretty
but
good at recirculating money.
yeah, yeah, but even they, as we see that with the big IoT or internet providers, even banks need to make sure that the electricity, the power that where their data centers are green, right?
Yeah.
So they're looking for means to decarbonize their whole enterprise, even if it's an assurance, even if it's a bank, right? And we see lots of these initiatives going.
Yeah, there's a big threat to that when you think about crypto mining, right? You're
Mhm.
using tremendous amounts of energy.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
they've kind of gone the opposite way of trying to be anything friendly to the environment.
I
Maybe they
think that
don't realize it, but
yeah, that's a great example of they didn't think the sheer amount of energy that is consumed to mine cryptocurrencies, right, is really a threat for the environment.
yeah,
They didn't think so far,
no,
and I'm sure they're also working on finding ways to become greener. They have,
absolutely. Well, some countries are kicking them out because
yeah,
they're
right.
not green enough yet, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, they
uh,
consume too much energy.
yeah.
It's a big disadvantage.
I know, HC plastics are one that for years now, the industry has been seeking to do something with plastics, make them more recyclable or make them biodegradable for a
Yeah,
long time, trying different materials, different processes. Haven't figured it out yet, but it's certainly a major effort. And it's a major, you talked about the social, societal aspects and expectations. And certainly plastics is in many places a big one because people see it, they find it washed up along the beaches, they know it's
right.
a problem. But now I hear people talking about batteries, right? They're really worried about,
Yeah.
well, all these batteries in all these electric cars, what's that going to do?
Yeah, I think batteries are really currently they are producing issues, let's say, at both ends of the supply chain, right? First, by getting them together without exploiting people in development countries, and then recycling them to a degree where they can actually become new batteries or new stuff in general. I don't think we have figured that out completely. The battery technology, to that large extent, where we see it today, that practically happened overnight, like over the last 2 years. I think we will see a lot of technology leaps in the next few years in the battery technology. And I'm really expecting we will see the same leaps in recycling of these batteries.
Yeah.
So, what's not possible today will be possible tomorrow. And whoever finds the right process to take these batteries apart and recombine the stuff to new stuff, those people will make a fortune.
Yeah, tremendous amount of research going on, and it's very much technology oriented research on the creation side. Is it going to be lithium or is it going to be something else? I read about
Yeah.
sodium batteries, maybe not for cars, not yet, but as an alternative to lithium. And you
Yeah.
can imagine it's not just the source of the raw materials, but it's the disposition of the raw materials as well.
Yeah, that is really fascinating what's coming. I can imagine that a lot of the established battery players will have a major role if they position themselves correctly. But I can also see totally new players that will only emerge based on the new technology that they develop, right? And that
Yeah.
they can supply to the market. So that's very, very exciting stuff happening.
Yeah. And you talked about the ecosystem, right? This
Yeah,
now we see universities and startups and very
yeah.
established chemical companies getting together as realizing that we're not going to figure this out on our own. Do you have some examples of that?
Since you mentioned chemical companies, I think actually chemical companies at the base, they somehow, at least to a certain extent, they invented circular economy because at the very basics of all chem parks, someone is producing something and then the waste is used by the next company, right? And so you have a chem park like in Leverkusen that has like 200 companies on it and each one feeds off the other. So in German, that would be a Kreislaufwirtschaft,
Hmm.
Kreislaufwirtschaft, and that's word for word a translation of circular economy, Kreislauf.
There
So
you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
and when you look at how BASF started, they started in Ludwigshafen, the biggest chem park in the world, on the planet. And already on their chem park, you will find dozens, if not even hundreds, of companies because BASF founded the Verbund. And the Verbund was their way of describing how to do circular economy on these chem parks, but they didn't extend the thought into their supply chain and into their customers, right? And now we're extending that on a global way. So new ecosystems are founded, like BASF, they team up with an energy provider to become greener. Others team up with other companies in the process that help them to generate new material or to recycle material. So there's new ecosystems also, as you mentioned, with universities or startups that can produce new stuff, that come up with new ideas.
Mhm.
So I think it's very exciting, and everybody's out there looking for maybe a magic sauce that can contribute to become greener, if you want, or to contribute to a circular economy and help the companies to thrive. As I said, in the EU, it's not something you choose to do. You really have to do it. It's mandatory. So people need to work on that. And what I see, if you don't mind me elaborating on that,
No, please.
what I see currently, what is happening is that a lot of companies have adapted the thoughts and the concepts and the action packs that were agreed in the European Union and put that in their OKRs and on their missions, visions, and all that. But that's still only on the senior management level. That's still on the in the reports where we want to go, and it's not sure if the word is right, but it's not executed or operationalized into portfolio management. And that's one of the big challenges, and it's also one of the biggest opportunities that's right now it's out there. I had a conversation today with one of our customers, a friend of mine actually, who works at a customer of ours, and he said, "Yeah, we have the stuff. Our management at the beginning of this year planning, and they had these new targets and objectives, and and then I asked, yeah, so does that mean you reprioritizing your portfolios, right? Because that would be the consequence of that."
Absolutely.
And he stated, "No, we're not there yet. We're on the senior management level. We have created awareness, we have an understanding, an agreement, but we have not executed on really reprioritizing the portfolio management. And part of why we didn't do it is because we don't have the means to do it. We don't have a portfolio management where we can really compare apples with apples and can reprioritize according to maybe new KPIs or something." So, and that's what I see as the biggest opportunity basically right now, because if you can become greener faster than someone else in your market, then you have a big advantage, right? It's like you enter a new market with a new product.
Yeah.
And since it's mandatory, if there is a way to become greener, someone else will do it. If this company doesn't do it, someone else will do it. So it's really a race.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a might do, it's a must do,
Yeah,
right?
it's a must do.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked about portfolio management. Let's talk a little bit more about that, right? So on one hand, portfolio management's a fairly well-known, mature concept. And yet in so many companies that I deal with, and I'm sure you as well, it's still new, right? Actually operationalizing, if I use that word you used, portfolio management and looking at it with the different dimensions and trying to make selection and prioritization against strategies. It's still emerging, isn't it, in companies?
Yeah, and especially in chemical companies, although they should be the first actually to fully adapt it. But it's so what happens is, I think many people still think in these terms: profit, people, planet.
Financially, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, financial, social, environmental,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's maybe a human thing to do, but what they do is they rank them in that order.
They
So it's
do.
profit
Yeah.
first, then it's people, and then it's the planet. Now what's happening is that this order has changed. Maybe it's not even a ranking order, maybe they're all level. These three categories are leveled so that profit, people, and planet stand on the same pane, right?
Yeah.
They're on the same level.
Yeah, we see CEOs that are now being measured and being
Yeah,
accountable for
yeah.
something besides just profit. People and planet are both part of CEO compensation, CEO, directives from the board.
Yeah, and I think we're just seeing the beginning of that, because these environmental and social factors, they become more and more important. And if, as everybody is competing for capital on the market, for buyers, for customers, right? If you have two vendors that are very similar, you would then choose the one that is environmental friendly, more friendly, and that is more acting more social responsible, right?
Yeah. It will be interesting to see if you think about startups and the VC, the venture capitalist community, how they start, if or how or when they start shifting their investments. They have their own portfolio. They have the portfolios of
Yeah.
companies that they're invested in. It might be interesting to do a little research to see, where are they putting their investments? What percentage? How do they allocate those percentages across those dimensions? I actually don't know. I don't know if you know, but it's something we could look into.
Ha! I might be one step ahead of
There
you.
you go.
Because I'm
I knew I brought you on this show for a reason.
yeah, thanks. Because I'm in so many chemical companies, virtually, but I am still having a lot of conversations with portfolio managers, with BU managers, head of R&D, right, product development. So what's happening? I've looked that up, and some of my customers told me that they have a website where they call for action. They have new objectives
Mhm.
regarding sustainability and circular economy, and then they put out a request to the public. Hey, if you have any idea that could help us, bring it on. Bring
Yeah.
it in, and we review it, and whoever contributes something and helps us with becoming more sustainable will get a project with us. So that is starting to get traction, and that will certainly create also new ecosystems. You'll see that.
Yeah, that's refreshing because that's the technology research won't have the financials behind it, but it will have other drivers. And certainly now you see with universities can come into that picture, into that ecosystem as well.
I'm not sure if yeah, probably a lot of people don't know that, but even Germany, the general administration has founded an institute for radical innovation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not called radical because that has a negative touch sometimes. It's called Sprunginnovation, Institut für Sprunginnovation in Germany. So you can get funds from the government, right? There's a bank that distributes these funds. There is a lot of investors that are thinking there's big business in sustainability in the near future, very near future. So there's new ecosystems being founded as we speak, and there's a whole ton of opportunities out there for existing chemical companies to become more sustainable, really.
For sure, the big ones, BASF, Covestro, all the big chemical companies will. What you spoke last time we spoke, you were told us a lot about the Mittelstand, that part
Yeah.
of that Germany. Yeah, how do you see them participating in circular economy?
Yeah.
It's a challenge, isn't it?
Exactly. Thanks, Paul. And it certainly helps that you spend a lot of time in Europe and in Austria. So you know your way around, and you know so many businesses, right, that
Yeah,
are Mittelstand. And we have this strong economy in Austria, Switzerland, that is Mittelstand, family owned, family
right.
oriented. And that is really the backbone of the economy in Central Europe. And for them, the governance that comes from the EU is seen as a challenge first,
Yeah,
but also because they work differently. If I may give you an example, so in Mittelstand companies, a portfolio is typically developed through a bottom up methodology. So there's a lot of projects, and each gets resources, and then they're funded until you run out of money or resources, right? And so a bottom up portfolio management that is continued to be managed like that, it's very difficult to change. And so the bottom up portfolio management, this overloaded portfolios with all these resources, what that does is it actually makes your business very slow. So if something changes, you cannot change your portfolio. You cannot even reprioritize your portfolio because it's really, really slow if it's coming from bottom up, and all your resources are dying in the projects that you need to reprioritize. So, in one of your talks, podcasts, Noel Sobelman, did a brilliant summary of how portfolio management, top-down portfolio management, is actually bridging strategy and execution. And that's only possible if you run top-down portfolio management. If you run a top-down management approach to your portfolios, where you manage your portfolios according to KPIs or even things you can already see in the future, then you can make faster decisions. And the Mittelstand, that's one of the challenges really, but there's also the opportunity. With every challenge, there's an opportunity for the Mittelstand to switch that bottom-up portfolio management methodology where you utilize all your resources until you need heroic effort to just get things done or reach a deadline or something, that you turn that around into a KPI-driven decision making on portfolio management. And that's a challenge for the Mittelstand that they still have to first become aware of and then execute on it.
Yeah, it will be a challenge. Hopefully there'll be access to capital, partnerships that may help them.
The Mittelstand that I'm talking to, really, money is not the problem.
Yeah, okay.
They have no shortage of money. It's more the thinking. Most of the Mittelstand people, they still think they are a local provider with local people providing to other local companies. But in reality, their supply chain is totally international. Their people are spread all over the world, and they are a global player.
Yeah, and tremendous scale there. If we
Yeah.
really want to make a difference in circular economy, they need to be a part of it.
Yeah, and then that big opportunity to make that shift and connect. They're already there because environmental awareness is very high, very mature in Central Europe because we're so crowded, right? We need to all use and reuse the same water over and over again, and the same earth and everything. So the awareness is there from the top, but the methodology to execute on the shift, on the strategic shift that is now just happening now on boardroom level, that methodologies to execute on that are not there yet.
Yeah, understood. Well, HC, we just have a couple minutes left. Any final comments you wanted to make or thoughts you wanted to share? Did I miss anything?
I might want to point out, to the listeners' sake, I'd like to point out a few sources that are really valuable sources and give great information. So, of course, you can Google everything and go to Wiki or something. But the European Union is, of course, a great source. And if you want to really have a very condensed view of methodologies that could advance your business, you can always turn to the PDMA. They have a great book of knowledge, be okay, right? And that puts everything together that any manufacturing company, be it from healthcare or from chemical or from pharmaceutical or from just industrial manufacturing, if you want, where they have these additional challenges with smart products, right? But everything, all these methodologies from stage gate through Scrum, Agile, design thinking, it's all nicely bundled and explained in that book of knowledge from the PDMA. And the PDMA, for those of our listeners who are not aware of that, that's the Product Management and Development Association, or Product Development and Management Association. And that's the biggest association for product development that thinks, talks, communicates, and educates people about product development methodologies in the world. So that's really a very trustful and a very useful source. And I think people should take more use of that. And then even the Mittelstand can make that leap that they need to do and then take advantage of that strategic shift that is now happening.
Yeah, if there was ever a work on a local level, but participate on a global level, that organization is one that's pretty good. Great, HC. Well, I want to thank you for joining us. Great, as always, for sharing some of your knowledge and experience and things that the listeners can think about. It's just wonderful to talk to you again, HC.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, for having me. I'm always excited. I listened to all the other episodes, highly recommended, great compendium of the latest and greatest and experiences from 30 plus years, right? From product development and innovation, portfolio management, road mapping, everything is in there. in your podcast. So I recommend that to the listeners. Just go through the whole list. I listen to that in my morning walks, and I really enjoy every episode.
I really
For that,
appreciate
Paul.
HC. We're trying. So to all your listeners, thank you very much for joining us. This, as HC just said, this is for you. This is about you. So if you want to reach out to us, please do. If you have things you'd like me to try to find guests about or talk about, please let me know. We'll certainly take a crack at that. And until next time, I want to wish everybody a good week, and we'll talk to you again. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.
Thanks for joining us this week for Innovation Talks with Paul Heller. For additional information on today's topic, check out Sopheon.com, Sopheon.com, where you will find plenty of innovation-centric content and corporate best practices. If you'd like to discuss anything with Paul or would like to get in touch with the show, email us at talks@Sopheon.com.